Very much. First of all, please allow me to congratulate Qatar for lining up the truce, albeit too short, in the Israeli-Palestine war. And the fact that there is only one single country which vetoed the United Nations Security Council resolution calling for ceasefire in the Israeli-Palestine war should convince all of us that we should be very lucky living not in a unipolar world. Allow me to emphasize, the multipolarity is a fact, is a megatrend. It's not a dream, it's not a strategic plan. It is a fact that we are all living through. And in that context, I think BRICS really demonstrates its vitality and sustainability. BRICS is a framework of equality and consultation and consensus. It is not framed in the geopolitical sense of the word. It is really very much dedicated to cooperation, contributing to peace and stability, and uplifting all of us, all the members, from poverty, from backwardness, and promoting progress and technological breakthrough. In that context, I think BRICS has a lot of vitality to it. And the next question after the summit meeting in Johannesburg is, when will be the next expansion? I don't think the expansion from 5 members to 11 members is the end. It is just the beginning. BRICS countries really come from different continents. They have different political systems, sometimes ideologies, different faith, for example. But that's not a problem. And the fact that both the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Iran are members of BRICS should indicate to all of us that BRICS is a framework for unity. You can really overcome diversity or sometimes differences to achieve a common goal. And I would say BRICS being not put in the framework of geopolitics, not for confrontation or conflict with anyone, but really just to promote what matters the most. That is the economic development. That is to overcome adversities in economics, in connectivity, for example. And you mentioned financial connectivity. Financial connectivity, currency cooperation will be forthcoming within the BRICS framework. It will just take a matter of years. You asked about G7 versus BRICS. Allow me to emphasize, with or without G7, BRICS can still exist. Why? Because these member countries of BRICS, they want to have independence and equality. They want to have their voice heard on the international stage. With G7, whenever it tries to dictate terms to the rest of the world, it actually increases the incentive for the BRICS member states to rise up to the occasion to make their voices heard on the international stage. Allow me to mention, when China accounted for more than 50% of the BRICS to start with only 5 member states, China did not dictate terms to other BRICS members. All the 5 members operated in equality with each other. Now we have 11 members in BRICS. I think this equality and independent decision-making of each of the BRICS members will become even more important. And this will serve as a greater incentive for all the other applying countries, because they see BRICS as a platform of equality, a platform where they can cooperate to the extent possible and really achieve greater efficiency and efficacy in whatever economic endeavors they want to engage with. Allow me to quote Prime Minister Mahathir of Malaysia. He said, "We don't fear China." Several hundred years ago, China came to our shores. China never took any inch of our land. This is what China is, never taking any land. One defense minister of China told his counterpart in a much smaller country in China's neighborhood, and he assured him China will never fire the first shot at that country. But then he said, China will never allow that country to fire the second shot. I hope it's very philosophical. From the Chinese perspective, war is always the last resort. It's always a bad choice. Peace and engaging with each other on equal terms and grow together should be the preferred methodology. This also applies to BRICS framework.
According to a poll published on July 27 this year by the Pew Research Center, negative views toward China have become more common since 2019.
China has the system which is best suited to its circumstances and the challenges. You talked about the public poll. I hope those who are doing polls or being polled should visit China and see what China is. The reports you see in the Western media are really not reflecting the realities on the ground. And I can talk to you on a one-on-one basis for hours to convince you eventually that the reality is very different from the Western reports. We talked about the investments that China made in any other countries which may make Washington unhappy. But allow me to say, the real litmus test of whether these Chinese investments are good or not is you see whether Washington keeps asking China to continue to buy US Treasury bonds. It's a kind of investment in the United States. You know, Secretary of Treasury Yellen visited China earlier this year. Do you know what did she talk about in Beijing? She kept asking China two things. First, don't dump Treasury bonds that the Chinese government held. The second, keep buying more Treasury bonds that the US government will issue. Now, this is the real litmus test. The United States probably wants China does not make any other investments in other countries so that China will have more money to keep buying US Treasury bonds. So wait until one day when the US government says, I no longer need China to buy US Treasury bond, then you will see the real truth. US wants China to continue to buy US Treasury bond. And US may not be happy when China invests in other countries in many parts of the world. But that's not fair. Whether China wants to invest in other countries is not to be dictated by the United States. It's going to be dictated by China and Latin American countries or African countries or Southeast Asian countries. And investment in itself should not be politicized or demonized. When we look at BRICS versus, let's say, G7, we should not only look at BRICS today versus G7 today, we should also look at BRICS over the next 25 or 50 years versus G7 over the next 25 to 50 years. I would say BRICS is truly an organization or a framework for the future. It represents the future development opportunities. And I hope G7 will come to terms with the fact that BRICS is here, BRICS is growing, BRICS is increasing, and BRICS can be a platform to cooperate with rather than something G7 or any other developed countries should pick a fight with. Thank you.